Hi, Arindam.
Hi, how are you doing, Ajanta?
I'm doing fine. And how are you doing?
Fantastic.
Lovely. In fact, seeing you after a very, very long time, if I really have to think back about the first meeting, I mean, it really brings back a lot of memories. Thank you so much for being my guest on this ninth podcast. So today I have Arindam Som with me. He's known to almost everyone in the qualitative research industry, and I don't want to introduce him. I would request him to introduce himself.
That's so kind of you. Yeah, we've had long associations, and that's what it's very nostalgic because I know I've worked with you, during my days at Hindustan Unilever, with especially brands like Ayush and then Lifebuoy, which was my first brand love as well. So after about a good amount of years, almost like what, 12 years in Hindustan Unilever, then Unilever, in both in India, then in Europe, in Milan, then in Singapore. We've done all this like consumer research, journey together, and that has been fantastic. I've also had the opportunity to work in Unilever not only as a CMI or a consumer market insights professional, but also for a period of about 4 years as a marketing professional. Post that, I came back to India and I kind of like did a bit of consumer healthcare stuff as well, apart from FMCG in GSK Consumer Health. Yeah. So I have been for about like 20 plus years in the industry. In the beginning, I was with IMRB and Nielsen, and then on IMRB, which is now called Kantar. And then I have been throughout in Hindustan Unilever, GSK, being on the other side, mostly in consumer and market insights, but for a brief stint in marketing. And since 2020, late 2020 or 2021, I have been fortunate enough to now start to have started an independent market research organization, both qualitative and quantitative, called Brand Eigen Insights and Analytics. And that has been one of the best journeys because with my experience in FMCG, I've been now able to kind of like go much broader into finance, into technology, into gaming, and all kinds of categories. And that was my that like for a market researcher, core market researcher like me, it was brilliant to go beyond just the soaps and shampoos and the foods and all that, or pharmaceuticals, to much beyond, which today in India is extremely kind of like relevant. It's growing in all kinds of sectors. And as a market research professional, now being able to serve the kind of learnings which I got from Unilever back to the industry in India is, I feel like it's brilliant. And no other place like Brand Eigen to be doing that.
Wonderful. In fact, I remember distinctly our first meeting, and it was Ayush, and the respondents turning up, telling us that the color of Ayush is yellow. And you walked up and you came to me and you wanted me to cancel the session. That was when, Arindam, I knew that there are people like me who really, know how to raise their voice at the right time. Believe me, I have been a follower. I've been adoring the way you have been working ever since. This would have been more than 2 decades, I guess. And fortunately, I have been with you throughout, and of course, with Brand Eigen as well. Coming over to our topic today, we basically wanted to understand a little bit about the real impact of market research in the business and brands, which we actually do research for. And since you have been wearing different hats, none better than you will be able to tell this.
Yeah. No, the very fact that I started off on my own is because of the great learnings from the research or the insights industry both at the agency side and the brand side. The great part of either doing or receiving market research is its 100% dependence on people, humans. Yeah. Therefore, the narratives and feedback are very unbiased, fresh, and and many a times they are revealing, they're shocking. They bring altogether a new angle to us, or provides a new way to think about an old fact. And that's what has always enamored me, the kind of like inciting which we can do, through which we can go beyond data. Yeah. In fact, there are five brands which are really shaped, this thing of mine. Dove, for example, it couldn't have stood for real beauty unless it recognized that women need to be comfortable with their own beautiful self. Now that was an insight moment, and that is like really taking the data and going much beyond it. And this particular capability and sharing these kind of capabilities with the rest of the industry became my purpose. For example, Axe, it couldn't have been one of the world's greatest seductive brands unless it really understood men's insecurity, that men want the woman to make the first move. Or Nike, unless it recognized that there is an athlete in everyone. Nike wouldn't have been this great compared to an Adidas or an Asics, or even Fair and Lovely. It might be seeming a bit regressive now, but the brilliant insight that woman's destiny is in her gene pool, and therefore Fair and Lovely comes and reverses it to that extent, is again brilliant. Or like Knorr, for example, in India or in Asia, cooking is a way for the woman to feed her self-worth by keeping everyone in her family happy. Now, these kind of five brands, five mega insights have always pushed me to say that, hey, market research is not about just peddling data or this thing, and that's why brand eigen. That's why falling back on human stories, critical stories, which become great stuff to kind of like trigger adoption for brands and businesses. Yeah. The second part in me is like, being in this direct touch with people 24 by 7, 365 days. If I was in a different kind of an organization, I wouldn't have been able to make that happen. Now I can make that happen. But that is not just the thing, because in market research, there are two qualities which I've learned to have from my boss at Unilever, ex-boss, Mr. BV Pradeep, who has been, the doyen of the Indian market research industry and even the global market research industry, who has been awarded with the Lifetime Achievement Award as well by MRSI. So I have been fortunate to learn directly from him for most of my years. And he was a guy who has inculcated the values of being ruthless with the data and the reporting of the data, and at the same time being passionate about how we get the data. In fact, there is a brilliant story which I heard from BV Pradeep's earlier years when he used to be with the Lipton side of HUL. And, I knew that like he was such a person who once understood that if the quality of the tea which his brand is serving is undergoing any kind of deterioration, he would be the first person actually, and he was the first person to actually stop the entire business team to go ahead with any kind of like value improvement programs, which would have further deteriorated the quality of Lipton. Yeah. And I know I've heard a story that he refused to go into the business meeting unless the team would have heard him. And he was a very young person. That kind of ruthlessness, that I stand for the brand and I would not make anything, negative. I would not allow anything negative if that thing has come to my knowledge, and I'll make sure that my organization kind of like really listens to it and makes therefore a very conscious decision, a decision which will be always better for the consumers. That's why, this kind of thing is just much beyond data, right? And that's why at Brand Eigen, we say like, hey, we stand for market research, 70% market research, but 30% also for marketing. Yeah. So those are the kind of like the cornerstones, the belief systems which I have grown up with. And that's the reason of me, one is being ruthless about the data, and on the other hand, being passionate about the data as well.
That's off to you. You have articulated this so well, and I feel so happy, that there are people in this industry even today who relate with my thoughts. Because being my 25th year doing this hasn't been a matter of joke, and I'm sure you know it. Right. So it's really a pleasure, talking to you. Tell me something. How do you feel and what do you find the status of market research? Where do we stand today, honestly, in India or in them?
Yeah, so I'll try to answer that in three phases. First is, though it's about market research, we serve ultimately the brands and businesses. Yeah. So
Right.
one point about first the brands and businesses in India, as I see it, the global or the MNC or the big Indian brands today, who are originally built for the Gen X, or even the baby boomers, they are suffering tremendous challenges as startup brands are standing up for benefits which seemed like second in line, in the previous era. And therefore, when I talk about a brand like M Caffeine, you know,
Hmm.
it has, it differentiates itself so much from the earlier era of brands like Lux or Afiyama, and they stand up for something which we always were scared to kind of like peddle it within our organizations, because stood up for suddenly it took up a enigmatic ingredient like caffeine and built an entire brand around it. Now that kind of daring capabilities is what we are seeing in the startups. Yeah. And because they are well funded, therefore they kind of like carry the message to the consumers, and they're not just about the product, they're both about the product and the proposition. Therefore, what we see is a great, kind of a thing which is happening with the bigger brands, that, they are not being able to keep up. As a result, there's pressure in revenues and profits, and therefore it's a much bigger challenge today. Yeah, that is for the brands and the businesses. Now, there's another big challenge in the context of the CMI professionals in these brands and businesses side. Yeah, apart from a few organizations, I feel CMI folks are still seen just as a support. Yeah, and I feel, they should be able to talk much more freely and not always carry the big bag of evidence uh, to be able to talk, because what happens in the context of human decisions, most of these decisions are irrational. There's a fact that 90 to 95% of our purchase decisions are actually irrational. Now, to understand beyond the data, the irrational part of it, a CMI professional over a longer term develops this intuition. Yeah, develops this entire thing of a feeling for the data, which is beyond just the claimed narratives or beyond just the prescribed data. That's why if CMI professionals in these organizations are much more empowered to talk about the longer term experience and to connect with the businesses, that would be great. Yeah. So I don't see CMI professionals, almost like having a year's plan or a 3-year plan for, strategic understanding of the brands they serve. They are still kind of like serving the researches which are tactically needed at that point of time. Yeah. So that is another thing which I think we should kind of like improve and become much more bold about it. The other thing is the research organizations. I think uh, we probably, in this entire tight context, have positioned ourselves very cheap. Yeah. It has happened to even the advertising agencies, and it's happening also to the research agencies, that the big guys, or even the, small guys are trying to serve it cheap because, there is a thing from the client side that just give me the data, just give me the narratives, and that's fine. There are recruitment partners who will provide this kind of a data. There are standard global traditional quant modules which you just serve, and you don't customize. You don't look forward to newer methods of interrogation. We are happy in this LLM era, language modeling era, that our sweet English-led analysis is good enough to serve them as reporting slides. This should stop. Yeah, because we might be doing a big disservice to the brands, because we will then remain stuck in the lack of innovations, which even are, kind of like the big, big people in the government are also talking about. For example, I know a particular minister, Prakash Javadekar, actually said that we lack the innovation in India because we have a shortfall of cultural discouragement, a shortfall to a cultural discouragement of questioning and being inquisitive in our younger years. Yeah. Even the Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal critiqued, saying that the segments of the startups ecosystem are prioritizing just consumer delivery apps rather than big, deep technological innovations. And I feel that market research should serve for those kind of big consumer needs, and therefore the bigger insights.
Right. I just wanted to add two things out here, Arindam. From my experience, what I'm seeing is you have rightly said that money is an issue. Austerity measures are at its peak. We've
Yes.
been told to talk to customers who are unable to speak in
Mm.
Hindi simply because of the costing factor. I mean,
Yeah.
you just cannot make people understand at times that a Bengali in Calcutta would be much more comfortable, a Maharashtrian in Mumbai will be much more comfortable for a particular SEC or a LSM or whatever you may call it. But then,
Yeah.
I mean, what happens is the entire cost gets calculated. You speak, you get it transcribed, or you get the AI, get you the transcription, and then you have interpreters. But then this is actually something which is not doing justice to the brands.
Yes.
But of
Very true.
course, many of the
No.
clients have understood this, but most of them don't because of the competition that all of us are into. Do you agree with me on this?
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely. Definitely. So, uh, uh, it's a big disservice, because what will happen is we'll just hear what we want to listen. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Um, and that cannot be. I mean, that's like the it's the biggest negative which you can provide as a service to your brands. Yeah, because this will satisfy a few people at that point of time, but overall you are kind of like just accelerating the brand declines. And
Absolutely.
I don't think the CMI function should operate at all like this. CMI function should, obviously be costed at a optimal level. It should have, alongside the entire respect and reputation it has carried for a long number of years. It should be seen as an investment for the brand rather than as an expense.
Right.
Once we change that lens, these kind of unnatural things in research, just to feed certain people's ambitions, especially in the business or the marketing side, we have to refrain from it. We have to refrain from it big time. Yeah. And we have to stand up for the entire consumer neutrality, consumer centricity, the entire thing of going beyond consumer claims to
Right.
actually provide those insights. Otherwise, the function would be kind of like very, very clerical in nature.
Absolutely. What are the other changes that might have happened, Arindam, which actually worries you as far as market research, consumer insights, human insights is concerned today?
So See, I'm extreme, and now that I run Brand Icon, and my entire purpose that I'm running this as a separate organization because we want to give superior value data, right? Now, superior value won't come from us. It would come from respondents, yeah. It would come from people, and if I have the ability to hear that kind of stories, then I'm likely to do better. So what I'm worried is the response quality and the respondent quality. We have a lot of professional respondents, which is worrying for me. We have a lot of fraudulent responses and respondents, which is happening in both quant and qual. We do recruitments from sections of population who are easily amenable to give interviews, and that is also extremely bad. You often peddle it saying that, oh, but they are representative of our society. But that's not the point. The point is to hear, the unvoiced, the hear, something beyond the people's, just the ordinary claims, right? And this is also kind of getting accelerated by in quantitative poor quality interviewing in by the lesser educated, if I may say, just because of the
Yeah.
money part of it. Straitjacket moderation, without the capabilities to cull out stories, reporting data or just claim narratives as it is. These are some of the, like, I think I would have told you about six things. And these things are really, really worrying for us because, what is happening is there's no capability building in the education system of ours to to go beyond data, to hear the unvoiced, to interpret silence, to interpret the unknown from the known. And we require both qualitative and quantitative methods to resurrect themselves. We require resurrections and brand image profile kind of calculations which are going on for the last 20, 30 years. We require a resurrection in the language of our questions. And we also require a resurrection of the typical marketing parameters behind which there are those foolish questions. For example, consideration or uniqueness or meaningfulness. Just merely asking those terms just because they are peddled in the Western world is not the right thing at all in the Indian context. And I've more realized this during this time where I am actually in connect with the consumer 24 by 7 and with my brands and businesses as my clients 24 by 7. So, most important, we must talk. I feel if respondent quality has to be improved, we must talk to the real respondents who shape tomorrow's vision. Yeah. This is true for qual and this is true for quantitative as well. So even if we
Right.
scale up, we have to make sure that we are talking to, respondents from societies and complexes as well, because that's the reality of new India. Yeah. This kind
Right.
of recruitment and interrogation is only possible with, far stronger education in our sector, reputation, being inbuilt with the recruitment partners or the networking partners, and and therefore we should not shy away from at both these levels also making sure that we have the best of the best from the all kinds of sectors to be recruited in those particular sections of the market research process as well. Yeah.
I get your point. Tell me something. There have been a lot of youngsters, who do get in touch with me as well, wanting to get into qualitative research. And you might have dealt with a lot of young researchers. How do you think this process of transition is happening?
So you see, I actually love the younger research professionals because they are inherently tech oriented. They are challenging the old system of data procurement, whether it's retail share measurement or usership and penetration or media attributions. They are the people who are working through hardcore scan technologies. Some people are actually using garbage, society's garbage data, dry garbage data, to come out with usership numbers. People are working through the search and add to cart kind of things which are available with e-com and the q-com. People are working with screenshot technologies on e-com and q-com to find out levels of usership and being able to predict it for the future. So there are those kind of stuff which is happening, and therefore I love the younger generation who are inherently tech and digital oriented. I also find great kind of capabilities in our good old organizations which are like ISI, who are working through much robust methods of media attributions, which help us far better in MMM kind of models, market mix modeling. There are people who are using much better visual artificial intelligence applications during the process of interrogations, with the usage of AI-led mood boards to be constructed, coming from people's own stories. Yeah, so it's not like you create a separate one. We see a lot of improvement in voice AI, especially for exclusive and private responses in different categories. Uh, Basically, we find these younger students also coming from not the typical, MBA colleges, which we are always kind of like in searching for. There are great students coming out from Tata Institute of Social Sciences, Ashoka, some of the best DU colleges like LSR, some great Bangalore colleges in the fields of both economics and psychology, and also some of the great masters from NMIMS or ISI who are masters in stats or maths. And that is also becoming a real hope for us, that we are getting people who are fundamentally strong in the core education part rather than being too generalist, which is coming out from our MBA streams. The other thing which I'm really, fascinated is like young researchers coming from our small towns. These students are throughout their lives are so much exposed to the realities of survival and struggle in India, that when they come to our profession, their ability to storytell and empathize with the realities of the consumers is far greater. Yeah, and therefore it just enhances our brand Eigen's ability to make sure that we are empathetic to the real conditions of our Indians, real lifestyle stuff, real aspirations, and real concerns. So that's where I see a lot and lot of hope of the young India to be able to participate in the industry of ours.
Well, Arindam, you're truly an ocean of knowledge, and I'm absolutely certain we need another episode, for this particular topic. And I genuinely mean that. And I'll definitely hold you to your promise of coming back, and I'm sure you will. Before we wrap up, I just wanted to share something. Having spent so many years in this particular industry, Arindam, I have had the privilege of knowing and interacting, in fact, working with several veterans from the market research industry and especially qualitative. Many of them have actually gone on to build, successful boutique firms, consulting firms, as you are already aware. What stands out about you is, the incredible passion that you have for brand Eigen. So do I, because I have worked with you as well. I wanted you to tell me, like a rapid fire round, what are the 5 USPs, unique selling propositions of brand Eigen by Arindam Som?
Oh, fantastic. So brand Eigen, we want it to be standing for storytelling. Yeah. And storytelling, not just for qualitative, but also for quantitative. We want the stories to be kind of like scaled up to mega stories. And then we want these foundations to be there for the brands of India tomorrow. Yeah. We do stand for market research, but we also want to stand for marketing. Yeah. So that's why Brand Eigen is about 70% market research, 30% marketing. The third USP is our focus on researchers from who have great foundations in economics, psychology, stats, and maths, and having good education, good masters from the good colleges of India or even abroad. And that's the third thing. The fourth thing of brand eigen is we want to keep it like extremely an environment of brainstorming rather than following stereotypical methods, kind of stuff, so that our researchers are, not just peddling out data reports. Our researchers would bring in design, would bring in, the most effective use of artificial intelligence, the great uses of the great predictions which we can do from real-time, first-time data, that kind of stuff. So we would really love Brand Eigen to stand for real-time market research. And that's the fourth point. And the fifth point is like we want to make sure that businesses improve. It's not about great market research slides, but we want to make sure that our performance is tied to the brand's KPIs at the brand side. So we want to love to work with partners who kind of like connects our predictions, our narratives through which we have expressed some suggestions or recommendations to be tied with their brand's performance, even if it happens in a span of 2 3 years. We want to make sure that that happens as we grow. Yeah. So those are the five things. And really, I think in the path which we have taken, we would be successful, especially, working with, great respondents, great, partners like you. And I'm sure we would make it possible that way.
You are such an inspiration, Arindam. Thank you. Thank you so much for coming over.